The Conservative Party has edited a video it was using as part of a fundraising email campaign. The video included this segment.
And he's failed to negotiate the release of 2 Canadians arbitrarily imprisoned in China who are being held in inhumane conditions.
Last week, when asked, the party's spokesperson, Corey Hahn defended using the detained men's photos in a political ad. Now that part of the ad has been removed after members of one of the men's families complained. Melissa, I'll start with you. I'll just sort of go over for our viewers. Of course, those are the 2 men, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, who have been detained in China, which many see as retaliation for the arrest of Meng Wanzhou, which is Huawei's CFO, in Vancouver back in December. They've been detained for a number of months now. And obviously, there has been a lot of disagreement about the government's handling of the case and how the case should be handled. But clearly here, the family of one of those men was not happy to see their picture in this ad.
Yeah, an unfortunate error, one that wasn't the first time it happened. It probably won't be the last time it happens in political advertising. But as soon as that family came forward, I think that the video or the ad was recut. It was removed. However, I don't think it's not incumbent on the opposition not to raise this concern with Canadians writ large. They've done so in a really public way. Sometimes in the bubble of Ottawa, this is a way to get that story out and to hold the government to account and make sure that it's doing everything it can to get these Canadians back. Because, like you said,
is there a difference though between raising it publicly? I totally see that point, and highlighting what they see as the government's failures on that file. Is there a difference between that and trying to raise money off of it?
Oh, that's a good question, and I think in terms of raising money off of it, it's probably not something that I would use in an ad, but I would use every avenue, including advertising, whether it be sort of YouTube, Facebook, any medium to get to people, to ensure that they know that they're standing up for those Canadians that are stuck in China. So,
What does this tell us, Andrew, about the state of political advertising in the lead up to this election, do you think?
Well, it's pretty gross. The fact that you're fundraising on the basis of people being wrongfully imprisoned in a foreign country, I think is really unfortunate. It certainly speaks to the part of the cycle that we're in, where people have detached the idea of sound policy discussion, and I think Melissa's right that there is certainly an opportunity here to be quite critical of how the policy has been, the policy with China, with regard to China, has been executed. But when it starts to creep into this kind of just blatant partisan politicization, I think it debases the issue, and it's a really unfortunate piece to see. I don't know that it will get better. I hope that all the parties actually do really think twice about kind of what the appropriate lines are. But the more that we see this just barrage of micro-targeted fundraising advertising where people need that $5, $10, $15, we're going to see a lot more, I think, risk for the parties.
Amanda?
Well, I mean, I agree with most of what Andrew just said. I think that it was a terrible sense of judgment to go out with an ad like that. You can imagine the families as they're dealing with this issue and then having to watch their family members be exploited in this way on the backs of a fundraising ask. The opposition politicized this issue in the House, and now they're exploiting these families for fundraising needs. I think it says a lot about values. I think it says a lot about what they're prepared to do this election from a really nasty, ugly perspective. And the worst part is when they try to defend it, when they say we need to put this issue in front of Canadians, they couldn't even get the spelling of the men's names right. Like, this wasn't about them. It wasn't about their plight. It wasn't about their family members. It was about dollars for the Conservative Party, and they should be embarrassed.
I take your point on the ad, but as far as politicizing it in the House, do they not have a right to sort of question the government's handling of the file? I mean, the men remain behind bars there. Obviously, there's no ambassador. There have been missteps by members of this government on this.
Well, I think that, to Andrew's earlier point, some issues just have to be nonpartisan. Some issues have to be about the best interests of Canadians, and in particular, the Canadians who are detained in China right now. And I think when you politicize it to make it about, as they did in the ad, about Justin Trudeau and his leadership and how he's failed and all of the things that they like to say, they take away from the real issue at hand, which we should frankly be united on. We have one single purpose, and that's to get these Canadians back on Canadian soil.
Does Amanda have a point, Melissa?
Well, you can't say that some issues can't be politicized when you talk about all foreign policy issues in this government. You can't say that China can't be politicized because this government has been an abject failure on coming up with a strategy that makes sense around China. This government has failed on NAFTA. This government has failed across the board on foreign policy with junkets and photo ops in India. So you can't say that it's not political. It's absolutely political.
I take it, but does there need to be special consideration when you're talking about these two individuals who clearly are, regardless of the politics, they're still, basically being held in China?
I think you have to be careful when you talk about all Canadians stuck abroad in consular cases. The government's careful to talk about it, and I get that you probably can't give the public everything they need but on this one, the government has failed those two Canadians, and they're still stuck behind bars, and Canadians deserve to know that.
I guess the piece I find curious, though, about the Conservative attack on this is it's unclear that their solution would actually resolve it. It's unclear what they would do that would actually get a resolution to this. And that's the piece that I don't, for all that I accept the rest of the argument around the foreign policy framework discussion and the criticism there, fine, that's fair. But what's the alternative on this particular case? What is it that Andrew Scheer's going to do other than get tough, which I don't think is actually going to work to get any respite for these folks?
Well, there's probably a larger discussion, Amanda, just about sort of various parties' approaches to China. And I think you can also fairly point out that this party that's currently in government, the one that was before, their positions actually, as far as China went, morphed kind of throughout their terms as well, right? Mm-hmm. In both cases.
Yeah, and I think that there's, a level of diplomacy and there are things that are happening behind the scenes which we're not privy to. But I think that there's a sensitivity required in dealing with China. I agree that the hammer approach probably wouldn't work in this case. But at the end of the day, this ad was not about providing a solution. This ad was about raising dollars for their party. There was nothing that was genuine or purposeful about it outside of taking people's dollars and putting it in their pockets. And that, to me, is a big fail. It's a huge lack of judgment when it comes to how you communicate with Canadians on issues of this kind of importance. Do ads like that, and apart from the sort of ethical discussion, Melissa, do ads like that work?
That's a good question. I actually have no idea on the stats of an ad like this. I do know that the ads that the Conservative Party generally put out do work.
They're raising a lot of money.
They're raising a lot of money, a lot more than anybody else. Do I agree that you should use Canadian consular cases in political advertising? No, I've said that. And when the families came forward, they rectified the situation, and I suspect that they won't do it again. But can they raise money on Justin Trudeau's foreign policy failures? Absolutely. Failures on China? Absolutely. Failures on NAFTA, failures to farmers? For sure, and you're going to see a lot more of it come October.
Well, we can all look forward to a really happy-go-lucky next few months. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time. Thanks so much to the Power Panel. Amanda Alvaro, Melissa Landsman, and Andrew Thompson. Appreciate it. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video. Thanks for watching.